Too Fast, Too Forever. Welcome to the family. We chose this one. This is episode 328, The Taking of Pelham 123 from 1974. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe, too. And this episode is brought to you by Kleenex. Life is messy. For whatever it throws at you, grab Kleenex.
Well, shout out to Kleenex and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. With us today, returning guest, returning champion, winning hearts, minds, games, all sorts of things. The host of Out Now with Aaron and Abe, it is Aaron Neuwirth. Hello, Aaron.
Hi. It's great to be here. I feel like I'm always a winner whenever I get to talk about this movie, so I'm excited.
That is so sweet to hear. This is a movie that I had never seen until this week, Joe. I think you had never seen either. Is that correct?
I had never seen it, and I only learned that there was a remake from Rachel this week. She was like, "Oh, you're watching? I wanted to see that," and I was like, "Yeah, from 1974." She was like, "Not the one that I cared about," and I was like, "Okay." So
I've seen those T-Mobile commercials. I know who I want to see in this movie.
Exactly.
There is a 1998 remake too, which I know nothing about, but that also is out there. But Aaron, this is a movie I think you had picked from a list of movies when I was like, hey, we want to have you back this lab. Here's the list of movies you're doing. You picked this one, I believe, because this is like dare I say, one of your favorite movies?
Not only is it one of my favorite movies, it's a movie where you ask people what are the perfect movies that exist out there, and it's 2001, Lawrence of Arabia, stuff like that. I would wager to say this is a perfect film. I have so much regard for this movie, and it's not like I'm some crazy person that's saying this. Like, there's a lot of people that really love this movie a lot, but I really like this movie, and I don't think there is anything out of step with what it's doing.
I want to see it again. I bought it. I have the beautiful Kino Lorber 4K right here. I'm going to position the camera like I'm a vlogger. Just like, look, I'm here. It's here. It's here. So I was like, I want to, like, half of it. I'm just like, okay, because the backstory, if you don't know, and if listeners don't know, this movie's come up like 4 times this lap. Because all lap long, we're watching movies from the 70s with dudes in rooms looking at analog boards. They're like, this is just like Pelham. I'm just like, don't say any more. I don't know anything about it. I want to know. I want to experience this movie. And God damn it, if this was another great example of dudes in the 70s looking at boards. I loved it.
Aaron, Joey has been so excited about control rooms all lap. Like, we've discovered a new almost fetish that he has, which is just control rooms. So anytime one comes up now, I know that this is going to be a movie for him.
Oh, this is a hell of a control room movie for sure.
Boy, oh boy. Yet, in spite of that, like, the way that I describe these movies, like, what I love about them, it's almost exactly describing Oppenheimer, a movie I did not like. But these movies, yes, please. 70s Oppenheimer, sure. 2023 Oppenheimer, no thanks. Anyway... let's do some backstory before we talk about this movie. So if you don't know, this is currently, as of right now, streaming on Max, formerly HBO Max. 4 armed men hijack a New York City subway car and demand a ransom for the passengers. The city's police are faced with a conundrum. Even if it's paid, how could they get away? So this is directed by Joseph Sargent, who directed White Lightning with Burt Reynolds, and also, importantly, Jaws for the Revenge. Written by Peter Stone, who did the screenplay for Charade, and it was based on a novel by Morton Friedgood. Produced by Gabriel Katska and Edgar Sherrick, who produced The Heartbreak Kid, which is another really, really good movie. And shot by Owen Roizman, who did The Exorcist, The French Connection, and Network. So really kind of heavy hitter cinematographer there. Budget of $3.8 million. No idea what the box office was, because the only thing I can find about the box office is that it did really, really well in New York, Toronto, London, and Paris. Do you know what those 4 cities have in common?
Subways.
They have subways. The rest of the world was just like, I don't know what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, it wasn't a huge hit at the time, box office wise. It and we can talk about why when we get to, I think, like the trailer and stuff, or even just like the poster itself. But yeah, it wasn't a huge hit for its day.
Well, for a movie where you're like, okay, a bunch of dudes, armed guys hijack a train. Most of this movie is just standing around, like, on both sides, and like, I don't know how you cut a trailer. Yeah,
yeah.
98% on Rotten Tomatoes, 88% by the audience. Consensus: breezy, thrilling, and quite funny. The Taking of Pelham 123 sees Walter Matthau and Robert Shaw pitted against each other in effortlessly high form. And Joe, the most exciting thing, for the first time in a handful of episodes, we got a crazy credit.
Oh, yes.
Aaron, do you know about crazy credits?
Yeah, as in like the IMDb reference point?
Yes. Do you know what it was meant to be, and do you know what it has become?
No. What?
So it was meant to be like an airplane where they're like, worst boy, Adolf Hitler, just like dunking on like weird people. Instead, it's just IMDb being like, cars drive from left to right in the credits for Too Fast, Too Furious.
Somebody like describes what the credits look like in Word is usually what actually gets published there.
Yet overwhelmingly, people love these
fucking
crazy
love
credits.
it. They love it. They're like
IMDb, there's,
300
thumbs up,
upvotes
thumbs
for
down.
every
They're
single
just like overwhelming. So we have one crazy credit.
Okay.
Although many of the scenes in this film were taken on transit property, the New York City Transit Authority is not responsible for plot, story, and characters portrayed. The authority did not render technical advice and assistance. Not only not a crazy credit, not even describing the credits. That might have been in the credits. I have no idea.
I think that was probably like a side note in the credits.
It's in the credits. It is, actually.
And yet, 15 people gave it a thumbs up, and only one guy gave it a thumbs down. So people love that crazy credits. There's not a ton of trivia I have about this movie, but since the movie came out, no number 6 train has been scheduled to leave Pelham Bay Park Station at either 1:23 a.m. or p.m. by the New York City Transit Authority. This is a practice at least for many years until it was discontinued, but trains are still not scheduled to leave that station at either 1:23 a.m. or p.m. because the name, like the taking the Pelham 123 is the Pelham train that leaves at 1:23, and so they're just like, some asshole is going to try to take the Pelham 123. We cannot have a train that is the Pelham 123. So even though it's not like,
are we not beyond that though? Come on, this is like an old movie now. I think that we've crossed that
Denzel
bridge.
modernized it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we did have the remake. We just talked
Rachel
about it.
is hungry for that remake.
Yeah, she's going to go hijack the train.
The composer for this film, David Shire, the husband of, or then husband of Talia Shire, importantly to this podcast, is in Rad. She has no other credits of note. But he was asked to extend the end credits piece of score to allow for extra time or credits to be added in. Talia Shire was the one who suggested that he write an adaptation of the theme that reflected a more romantic New York to contrast the gritty sounds of the main score, and he adopted that approach in the extended passage. I just love that, like, Talia Shire out of nowhere just pops in the trivia, just like, here's an idea. He's like, cool, thanks, got it.
Nailed it. Awesome.
Originally, New York refused to let the movie shoot on the actual subway because they thought it would encourage people to commit such a crime. The producer was adamant that no other city's subway could be credibly used if it's going to look like New York. It has to be New York.
Fair.
The city finally cooperated after the mayor intervened, but it required United Artists to buy anti-hijacking insurance at $75,000 and pay $275,000 just to use the subway. So again, for a movie that cost under $4 million to make, that's a sizable chunk of just like, hey, if you want to shoot here, if you want to make it look good, pay us.
Okay, so Manhattan's anti-hijacking insurance, or mahi-ahi, as some might call it.
Is that a real thing?
It is now.
Cool. I mean, sushi and insurance.
That's the New York way.
Of course.
Sushi and insurance is pretty much describes Manhattan in 2 words.
Slice of pizza and you're golden.
Yeah.
So I mentioned before, this is directed by Joseph Sargent, but considered at one point for director was Steven Spielberg, which is
interesting. Okay.
Probably could have been good.
Yeah.
The patrol car that carries the money is a 1972 Plymouth Fury, which is the second Plymouth Fury, at least, to be in this podcast. Joe, do you know the other Plymouth Fury of note?
Oh God, I'm gonna guess
famous movie car. Aaron, do you know it?
No.
It's a 1958 Plymouth Fury in another movie.
Oh, Two Lane Blacktop? No, that was something else. What was it? Fuck, I don't know. What is it, Joey?
The Fury is a very big hint. This is one angry car.
Christine
is a Plymouth Fury.
I'm not a car guy, so it's like, it takes me a second sometimes with these.
The only reason I care at all is because of the theme of the podcast. But other than that, I'm not a car guy either. And the only other trivia that I have is that Walter Matthau's son says the final shot, which we will talk about, is Matthau imitating. Anybody want to guess who he's imitating? Aaron, you might know.
No, I have no idea.
Aaron, do you know this?
Is it something goofy?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is it like his son or something like that?
Mm-mm.
What is it?
Charlie Chaplin. Walter Matthau.
Oh yeah, the kid. Yeah, that's why. That's
just
right.
like staring, just like
the tramp. Yeah, the end of the City Lights.
So let's talk about it. Joe, what did you think of The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3?
I thought it was pretty good. I'm glad that I'm talking to two people. Well, Aaron, professed his regard for it. So I'm glad to talk about it with two people that have a good movie eye. And because I thought it was good, but like this wasn't like.
But this wasn't like one that this isn't your favorite lap.
No, definitely not. It was just like, but it was good. Like I would recommend it to other people. I would just be like, for me, this isn't my favoriteest movie.
Did you like it enough to watch the remake with Denzel?
I would. Yeah, I definitely would.
Okay.
Like enough that I would watch this again and watch the remake as well.
Cool. Aaron, hit us with it. What do you love about this movie?
Everything. The I saw this movie a while ago when I first saw it, and I was like, "Wow!" I didn't expect something to be like as accomplished as it was from this premise. I was like, "Okay, that sounds like a fun like hijacking premise," but like watching it, it just like every piece for me just comes together so well and in ways that feel perfect for being this kind of like proto action movie thing. You could see this movie's inspired so many other like movies that have come since, and you can
Definitely.
see like Die Hard is a great example where this is very much a proto action movie compared to something like that, which is more in favor of having action sequences in addition to tension and what have you. This is a movie where there isn't a lot of action. It's a lot of, like you said, it's control room scenes and people talking on walkie-talkie or phones and what have you, like communicating with each other. But it's able to bring so much tension out of it. And so much of that works because of the performances. We have Robert Shaw and everything, like doing his thing on the one end. But on the other side, Walter Matthau, who is such a unique screen presence, but was like in his prime, he's in prime leading man mode right now. It works because he's so grounded and real, and yet there's a lot of humor in this movie that works to its advantage. This is not a movie that would work if it didn't have the amount of like fun character work going on throughout this story. So like that aspect certainly like helps bring together what I like so much about this thing, where it's this gritty thriller that happens to like have a good head on its shoulders, and it feels grounded, and it feels like it exists in a world that makes plausible sense as far as what's going on and why people are acting certain ways. And that comes down to every detail of it. That comes down to all the faces you're seeing. Everybody looks like a person that exists in real life. It's not a pretty movie. The New York aspect, which I'm sure we'll talk about more, I've never been to New York. This is a movie that is often described as the one of the quintessential New York films because of how much
I
it's
will say
digging
very
into
quickly
what New York looks like.
This movie is so much better because they just use actual New Yorkers. Like they use New Yorkers in a way that no one does anymore. Like other than maybe the Safdie brothers, just like it's filled with just kind of asshole guys, but they're not being assholes. That's just like the way they are. It's just like,
and they're like prototypical New York. Like if you're on the subway, you're gonna see one of each of these characters. Like they're just gonna exist.
Every single guy in the control room is just like a New York guy, and they're all like kind of assholes to each other. And like the fact that they all like speak with the accent and are just short with one another, but also like professional, like get the job. It's just, man, it's perfect. But yeah, keep going. Like a prototypical New York movie.
All of those aspects, like that's like what, like the New Yorkness of this all. Like it always feels impressive to me. There's such satisfaction that comes in every step of this movie as we learn more about this plan, or we see more things happen. All of it leads to some unconventional choices towards the end, which leads eventually to one of the greatest last shots in cinema. I mean, there's just so many things here that I absolutely adore about this movie. And I'm sure we'll talk about the remake a little bit later on, perhaps, but I hate it.
Is it the same story?
It's because it's the same. It's based on the same book, and so it's less about recreating this movie and more about recreating that specific story. But like all the things that I'm praising here about this movie is lost in the new remake, which sucks because I love Tony Scott. I'm such a big Tony Scott fan. It's my least favorite Tony Scott film, and it's not hard. It has all of the ingredients. Like, we'll talk about it. I can stop with the remake stuff for now because it bums me out. As I watched it, I hadn't watched it since I saw it in theaters back in '09. So I watched it again this week just to see it. It's like, no, this still sucks.
It wasn't me.
This is still bad.
Is that '98 remake anything? Did you know about that or no?
I know it's a TV remake.
Okay.
I think Edward James Olmos is in it, among other people. I've yet to see it. I've heard that it's fine, that it does the job, but I mean, this is the movie. Like, this is the one that gets the credit for good reason.
Joe, did you recognize, Aaron mentioned his name, did you recognize Robert Shaw, like kind of the main hijacker?
Yes, I did, but what do I know him from, Joey?
He is from a genre-defining horror film.
Jaws?
He's Quint.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
And
I
The
think
Sting, if you've seen The Sting.
Oh. I think that Aaron nailed it with the New Yorking, though, because I don't often romanticize New York like a lot of people do. It's like their thing. They just like think about it, always want to go there, always want to think about it. And I think modern New York loses all of this amazing charm that they show in this movie. And like just like the signage and like you're right, like the people and all those things, but like the setting of New York itself really, really sells me in this movie, and I did greatly enjoy that.
I also can't believe that you didn't full out love a movie with George Costanza's dad in this movie.
Oh
you know
my God, I know. As soon as I saw George Costanza's dad.
This is the kind of thing. If this movie was a bigger hit, I'd be like, let's see more movies with Matthau and Stiller just solving crimes.
Yeah.
Aaron, you were talking about how funny it is. Like toward the end of the movie, where they're like, "She's moving." They're like, "Who's moving?" It's just like, what have we been talking about for the last 90 minutes? Like, there's only one thing we care about. We're just like, so like they were laid the information. And the next guy's just like, "Oh, she's moving." They're like, "Who?" It's like, God damn. Like, but it's so like they're all so earnest and like they're not trying to be assholes, but also it's just like the Jerry Stiller, like the effortless man. It's so good. So there's like the Car 54, Where Are You, which I'm not really super familiar with. I think it was a TV show that became a movie or whatever, something along those lines. But at one point in this movie, they just go, Pelham 1, 2, 3, where the fuck are you? Just like, they're just so just like, again, just wonderful.
There's some great swearing in this movie. He's like, I don't know. He has like a Tourette's tirade at one point, one of the characters that he just like spits out like 4 curse words in a row in a weird combination. And I was like, love it. That's hilarious.
You know, one thing that I really loved about this movie, you know, having not seen it, and I think just being sort of like dealing with having to tolerate the way that new movies are made, where they're like, oh, there could be a sequel. What if we're taking the Pelham of 1, 2, 4 or whatever? But like, so many people just die in this movie. They're just like, no, we're gonna kill him. Like, there doesn't have to be. And then like at the end, when Robert Shaw like touches the third rail, just to, like kill himself, he's like, you got the death penalty? Like, no, just prison for life. He's like, all right, cool, and he just kills himself. Like, whoa, like it's crazy. Just like, no, we're done.
If we're jumping way to the end like that, I mean, oh my God, it's such a brilliant like where you're at a point where it's like, where is this? If you're not seen it before, like, where is this going? Like, they're all leaving the train now. Mathau's there, who's like he's like a cop, but like not a conventional cop by any means. He's like, he's not John McClane. He's Walter Matthau wearing his hat.
Right.
Like he's walking down there with two deputies. Like, let's see what happens here. And just like, they just stumble upon things. Like they just happen to find it after like the undercover guy is already like, well, they were like, Shaw's already killed Hector Elizondo. The undercover cop killed, what's his face? Wilson from Home Improvement, who you can see his face the whole time. That's who that is.
That's why I didn't recognize him.
Yeah.
Wow.
But, and Marty Balsam's got away, so now it's just like Shaw's there. It's like, what's this encounter gonna be? Like, it's their only scene together, and it's like, it's such a great bit where it's like, it's not a fight, it's not a shootout, it's just two people talking for a bit. It's like, oh, shame, and he murders himself. It's such like, what a way to go for a guy who you have nothing but like a general sense of his like personality based on how he's been acting for the past hour and a half or so, and that's it. He's gone, and we still have like 20 minutes of movie left to do.
Yes, we do.
And there's just one guy left. It's just like, all right, we got to find the one guy. Like, we have leads. We got to like work through. Like, there's a little, like, that's almost like journalism. I mean, it's cop work, but it's like, it's almost like that. Like,
it's process work. It's really
exactly. Which I love. I also love the like the tactical, like the tactile, like the money counting machines that they give off. Like, we want $1 million. We want like in these kind of currencies, like banded like this or whatever, non-sequential. And so they just like there's maybe like 5 minutes of this movie where people just counting money and like banding money and then putting it in machines and like recounting the money.
Because they have 26 minutes to get this like across New York. No fucking way.
But they're spending so much of that time like just I'm just like, man, I love it. Like I just love the old time of like that kind of stuff still exists, but like, man, it's good to see that. I love seeing that kind of stuff.
It's a lot of great because you're watching them like figure. There's like a fucking it's a cop car going by as I'm talking, racing to the subway station, I guess. It's such a fun thing to like just see the different like machinations needed to be pulled as far as how do we solve this problem. Like that's so much of what this movie is. It's like it's not exactly a disaster movie, it's a hostage movie, but it has the same kind of like there's a thing coming at us that we can't seem to stop. What do we do about that? Because that means I have to go to this guy. I have to go to this guy. I have to talk to the mayor. I have to talk to this person. We have to get the money. We have to drive the money across town. We have to you have to all these different steps that are laid out, which again, they're not action sequences. It's just a matter of like, how do you keep this tension going? And that's why films like Apollo 13 are so creative, because that's a big control room movie and there's so little action on display, and yet you have to find ways to make that creative. This is a very good example of how do you make this exciting throughout. Beyond, you can't just focus on the bad guys in the train the whole time because that'll get old. You can't just focus on just Walter Matthau rambling his way through things. So you have to involve the city of New York essentially and make that work. And it's great for that.
So I like that the movie is basically like, we're going to take an element of the plot out. Like the train is stopped for so much of the movie, and the movie is just like, all right, they can't move the train unless one of them's on it. We know that one of them's not going to be on because they're not going to sacrifice one of these dudes for them to get away. And then the train starts moving again. You're like, oh my God. So like it reintroduces an element of action in a way that's exciting. And also that turns it into like the bullet train, Joe, where it's just like.
It was so much like the bullet train.
It's just a recklessly speeding subway train speeding like at the risk of all of its passengers. Also, I was like earlier in the movie when there's just like a bunch of Japanese businessmen in the room just like looking at the walls. I'm just like, that's also.
Oh, but he's like just shitting on them the whole time because he's like, they don't understand.
But I'm just like, that's like, because you don't know. I mean, I guess you kind of assume that like they could be that the train car itself could be put back into play, and then when it actually finally does, you're like, oh right, that could still be a thing. So again, just so good.
I like one of my favorite parts of this movie is when you guys were like talking about tension and stuff. It's like, I think that the score fucking slaps in this movie. Like,
entire score is so good in this movie. It's so
a lot of lists have this as like a top 10 score of all time.
Oh yeah. I can definitely see that. It just like it makes you anxious at the right moments. It just like it's delivering 100%.
And it's got that 70s kind of funkiness.
Yep.
To it all. Like, so it's able to, and that's what Shire. I love. Seen when David Shire's name comes up on like movies I either haven't seen or I just forget that he did the score. I'm like, oh here we go. And that like I feel like an heir apparent to someone like David Holmes, who does a lot of Soderbergh movies, where it's like, yeah, he knows how that 70s thing kind of goes, where it just has a nice kind of feel where you're like, I'm in it, I'm in the moment now. That's what this movie gives you.
Yeah, you're right, and it nails the time period too, right? Like that's what it's also hitting, because it's like, yeah, awesome.
David Shire has also done The Conversation. Francis Ford Coppola's The Conversation. He did All the President's Men. He did Saturday Night Fever. And also much more recently, did Zodiac, which is another perfect movie. So the guy's got good skills. Joe, what was it about this movie that like wasn't perfect for you, or like wasn't a movie that you like loved or whatever? Like what could have been better, or, other than just like not your kind of, I don't know, but like what about this like did you not like fully fall in love with?
I think that because I think that this is another movie that's pretty subject to me of seeing all of the parts that were stolen from it in other films and then seeing this last. You know what I mean? Like, as Aaron said, like it being a prototype for all of these action movies, and you definitely see that like there's so much of this movie was taken in bits and pieces of other movies and expanded upon in interesting ways, that I think that was part of it. Also, generally, like, it's super dark, right? Like, the movie's very, very dark for me.
Like, in terms of, like, heavy somber, in terms of, like, not that much light?
Like, contrast, brightness. Like, you know, you're dealing in a dark subway station, which makes sense, but, like...
Do you have a fancy new 4K Blu-ray from Kino to watch it on? Is that...
No, I watched it on HBO Max, so...
Crushing those blacks on there.
Mm-hmm. Joe, you're just like all those people that were complaining about Game of Thrones a couple years ago. It's like, well, stop streaming it. Buy the Blu-ray.
Calibrate your TV color,
Yep.
right? No. Just like, but we don't see this level of like realistic darkness in films anymore. They like cheated a little bit, right? Like to like bring up the contrast to see it better. So for me, I'm like I was like squinting sometimes, like what's going on here? Like what is happening? And trying to like process it, and then that takes me out a little bit. So I mean, that's a me complaint, but nothing crazy.
It seems like the bigger thing is just like it's the whole like seeing the movie that everyone stole from, or not stole from, but like stole from, pays homage to, whatever.
It. Yeah, like I like this movie, like, and I definitely respect it. But like I was just like, oh yeah, like it's not like, oh shit, I need to force all of my friends to watch this immediately. You know what I mean? Like you missed out not seeing this.
I mean, I do think that there's a real kind of easy sell of this, and I think a reason why it works so well is that it's short. Like it's an hour 40, right? Like it's not.
It's breezy. Breezy was a good word.
It's breezy, and it's fun. I mean, it's as tense as things are, and as sad as things are, as far as people die in this movie. Like it's Joe, that like it's like you're saying, like, okay, you wouldn't necessarily like say like all your friends you like necessarily show it to them. It's like I don't know, like even if you weren't like super high on it the way I am, I would still be like I would still show it to your friends, because maybe they would just appreciate the.
You're right. Yeah, maybe it's just a me thing.
It's not a hard movie to watch. It's not like this is a chore to be like, let's put on Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3. Oh no, like not that. Like it's a fun movie.
Because I think like a lot of like not a lot of many 70s movies don't age well just because they're 50 years old. But I think this one feels of a time, but also still manages to feel modern, which is not easy to do. And I think
you're right.
Sort of
it feels
like
modern for sure, and I think it's because we have so much of it that was taken and placed in other places, right?
Yeah. Like what other movies? I mean, movies we probably have covered already here, but like other than like Die Hard, like are there other things from this movie like, oh, I've seen this somewhere else, or was it just sort of like a subconscious?
Well, Reservoir Dogs is a clear one. I mean,
Reservoir Dogs,
colored names.
We talked about it. The Bullet Train. We just saw like that, and then you get stuff like Speed, right? Or like any of
number
these
of
things.
Die Hard on a blank movies call back to this movie as well to some degree.
I guess I shouldn't be surprised. So like Aaron, all lap long, this is our planes, trains, no automobiles lap. And so we are tracking vehicles that are not cars. And obviously this is a subway train, so it's a different kind of thing. But I was just like, I wonder if this could be like other stuff. And like other than the subway car, there's, police motorcycles and kind of the police truck van thing, like the transport thing.
Yes.
But other than that, there's not really, I don't know what I was really kind of hoping for, but...
It's like pre-skateboard times, but I did catch a bicycle in the subway.
Okay.
So, like very early on, a woman is pushing a bicycle in the subway. She's not riding it, but she's just like walking it. And yeah, I think that's the only thing I got too, Joey. Besides like the subway tracks, like it's
and like
just
it makes sense. But I'm just like, oh, it's
does.
New York.
Oh no, I got a nice one. I got a special one.
Ooh,
when they wreck the police car and it flips, he hits like a pedaled food cart. It's like he has like the container in front of him that you would like sell pretzels out of or something. I'm imagining in New York. Yeah, and so he hits one of those. That was my last special vehicle.
No, I think it's very cool. I also, we were talking before about the like the stare at the end, like the Charlie Chaplin snare, the sneeze, like just like the kind of inevitable ending. But I also love like another thing that I did not mind, because it's going to play out exactly like this. But there's the one woman who is asleep the entire time the hijacking is going, right? And you're like, oh, she's gonna wake up at the very end, and like as soon as like the e-brake hits and like the train comes to a safe stop at the end, she's just like, oh, we're here already. It's just like we like exactly what it's gonna be. And it doesn't matter, because I think it's perfect.
It's an old-fashioned gag for sure.
It's very funny.
It was really I like that too. I did.
Speaking of crazy credits, I'm surprised those things aren't in there, because they don't have names. That she's like credited as like drunk woman or something like that. Like there's a lot of the people on the train itself are credited as the things that they represent in that movie.
Well, like what I just watched in theaters. It'll be out on Netflix by the time this comes out. But the new Fincher movie, The Killer, and like every character in that movie doesn't have a name. It's just like they're the killer, the client, the this, the that, and like you don't need more, because like names come and go, right? But just like, oh, that guy's Blue. Like I don't remember who Blue was, but like I remember he's one of the guys. Oh, that's Green. It's just like one of the guys. Oh, the drunk. So yeah, okay, cool.
It's how I name people in movies, anyways.
Yeah.
It's usually how I refer to them.
Aaron, other favorite moments or elements of this movie that we've not yet covered?
We can just talk about the robbers in general.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because Robert Shaw's obviously, he as Blue, the leader. He he's Robert Shaw. He's a very good actor. He brings a level of menace here that I really appreciate. But the other ones are like I like that they have, especially at least three of them. Like Earl Hindman as was he Brown? He has the least to do by default. He's just like one of the guys that's helping out with this whole thing. But like Hector Elizondo is very against type in this, but like especially after this, he's Gary Marshall's guy.
He's like the guy who I basically like. Joe, he's Gary Marshall, who we did New Year's Eve on Zack Attack, but who did a number of enormous movies. Like as far as I know, and like I know it's not true, but like I always just think of like Hector Elizondo is only in Gary Marshall's movies. Like it's just his guy, and he's in all those. And sort of to see him here, like in a major role, I'm like, oh, huh.
He did other stuff. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, he's in Gary Marshall movies, this movie, and Beverly Hills Cop 3. Those are his movies that he's in. But I mean, he was a theater guy before this, and like even then, like it's just like this is like a weird, like different kind of role for him because he's just an asshole. He's a racist asshole who's the meanest of the bunch of them. He's one that will kill because he wants to, as opposed to killing because of necessity, like Robert Shaw would. And then obviously have Martin Balsam as Green. Martin Balsam, who's an old character actor. He's in 12 Angry Men. He's in Psycho. Like, I love Marty Balsam. Like, just seeing him pop up in something is like, well, this is going to be good no matter what. He gets to have a level of fun here eventually. Like, he's the guy that, like, he's the brains behind it all as far as knowing the operations of the subway and everything. But, like, he's on the train. He's doing what he needs to do. But once he's off the train, especially, like, just seeing the movie kind of pivot since you don't have Robert Shaw anymore and you have to like deal with him for a while, there's good stuff coming out of that as far as like seeing his crappy apartment, which is like a very 70s New York apartment.
Yes,
seeing the brief moment of joy he gets from having the money, seeing him then like sweat because they show up at his door. Like there's just a lot of good stuff there.
Well, what I also think is like when they're at the apartment, like, and it is like a dumpy, just cluttered, messy New York apartment, Walter Matthau says, hey, nice place. But like, he doesn't seem like he's being an asshole about it. It just seems like, hey, it's a nice place. But like, it's not. I mean, it is, but it's not, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's a weird, like, all right, yeah.
I like George Costanza's dad lighting a cigarette off the stove. That's fucking top tier too, man. That's just like so classic.
That was very funny of him like having to shuffle back and forth, like Martin Balsam like going back and forth, like he sees the one pack of money, it's like shuffle back to like hide that, and he's just like, oh, I'll just lay it off the stove where all the other money is. Just like, oh, hold on, it's a little bit. It's just like he's doing like comedy in like with two comedic guys or guys who can do comedy that just aren't, and so it's a very funny like Are you rooting for him to get caught there? Because he's going to get caught. But like, are you rooting for him to get away? Are you rooting for him to get caught, or you're just down for whatever?
I think because of the murders, you have to root for him to get caught. Otherwise, like if they would just like have hijacked the money, held them hostage, got the money, and then take off, I wouldn't see him as a villain. You know what I mean?
It's funny because the last time I was on here for one of these was Inside Man, if I'm not mistaken. And which is another movie that very much owes to this movie in terms of the way it's portraying New York and the fact that it has a sense of humor about what's taking place. It's very indebted to. This is one of the key movies that Spike Lee was inspired by. But in that movie, you don't necessarily want Clive Owen to get caught because why? He's just doing this thing and he seems to have a righteous reason for doing so or what have you. And that for heist movies in general, that's what I always find interesting about heist movies, especially when you're on the side of the heist people. You want them to get away with it. This is not a movie where you're doing that. This is a movie that. You had Robert Shaw leading a pack of people that are essentially murderers. Like they will do what they need to get something done, and
because there's no underlying motive. It's just like they want to get money.
They want money. Yeah,
that's the other thing. Yeah, there's no. I actually, this is a good point. I have this in my notes. I really enjoy that they're just trying to get money, and it's not like I'm trying to get money to save my sick kid. Like they're just criminals, man.
Yeah.
Like they're just getting money, they're just holding hostages and killing people, which I'm like, we don't get enough of that. Like there always has to be this like is he really good? Is he really bad? And it's like, no, these guys are just bad.
My boss slept with my wife and I'm going to prove that he's an asshole by exposing him on the job. It's like, no, we don't need it's just like, no, you're just assholes who like want
they're
money
just criminals.
And you're good at doing this. Yeah.
Yep.
And so Walter Matthau, you're definitely rooting for him. But on top of all of that, once like they haven't necessarily cleared him, but they're like ready to move on to like the next place. Balsam like gets cocky and he starts like saying like I should be coming down to your guys' place and tell you how to do your job here, like as if like he has like a reason to be indignant about things all of a sudden. So it's like it's putting even more in the position of we need Matthau to catch this guy. It's just a matter of what's going to do him in, and there's different like red herrings there that are planted to make it seem like he could have done this or that or whatnot. but it just goes for the perfect thing, which is, it uses its rule of three. We see him sneeze at the beginning of the movie, we see him sneeze towards the middle of the movie, and we see him sneeze right at the end of the movie, and it's a perfect final shot.
And it's always Walter Matthau saying Gesundheit, right? Because it's always like the same exact thing.
Every time.
And it's a distinctive sneeze and everything.
You even get the sneezing from the mayor, too, which is just like cluing you in, right?
Man,
like the mayor being sick the whole time.
The mayor is so good.
The mayor who's played by Lee Wallace, he looks like, you would think he looks like a kind of an Ed Koch type figure, except Ed Koch isn't mayor for like another 9 years. So this is also a movie that predicts the future.
Was he the mayor in Batman because he was mayor in this too? Like, did Tim Burton cast him as the mayor in Batman because he's already been the mayor of New York?
Is he the mayor in Batman, Lee Wallace?
He's the top, according to Letterboxd, he plays mayor in Batman. He's also in Clute, which is another great 70s movie. I don't know. I love that, like, his wife is just like, pay the money. Just pay the money. Just pay the money. He's like, why?
Yeah,
She's
just
like,
do it.
12 votes. You're going to get 12 votes. He's like,
that was
He's
a great
the mayor
line.
of Batman. That's right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Huh.
One thing that I wasn't sure, and like it doesn't really matter, but like the entire movie, like there's just like four dudes who are like they all kind of largely look the same hijacking the train, right? And I'm like, are these fake mustaches or just 70s mustaches? Like I can't tell if this is like a character choice or if this is a disguise. And at the end when they take the mustache, I'm like, okay, good. But I was like, this just might be 70s dudes. And I wasn't sure.
It could have been. The glasses, too. They were very 70s glasses and jackets and, like, the whole getup. It was just, like, dudes in the 70s on the subway.
Because I think, like, in terms of, like, what people remember, like, oh, they had big mustaches. And it's like, well, no, right?
Yeah, they're wearing disguises. Like, they're disguises.
But I just wasn't sure, like, as a dumb person, I was just like, are they disguises or are they just, like, dudes in the 70s? I don't know.
They are wearing, mustaches, what have you. They're just still trying to look like people as opposed to, like, wearing heavy on they're not, like, inside man. Like, which is masks and hoods and what have you, which is for also an elaborate purpose as well. That said, I believe the book, like, they are wearing masks. Like, that's a change they did make. They were like hiding their faces. This is more of a practical means of.
Well, because it's always scary in movies with hostages where, like, when they're not wearing a mask, like, oh, none of these people are going to live, right? Because, like, if they see the face, like, they're all going to die. But, like, here it's just like, I don't know. They might get away.
That's another thing, too, speaking of kind of whether or not hostages make or not. I love that Robert Shaw is a person of a certain code. Is that, as much as detail as you get out of him, he's a guy that you very much can trust what he's saying because he's a very exact kind of person. He established that pretty clearly, where he's a guy that what he's saying is what he means. He's not there to deliberate. He's not there to negotiate. He's there to tell you, this is the thing I need. This is when I want it. And if you don't do this, I'm going to kill these people. I have no reason not to believe this man. I also have no reason to believe that he won't, that he'll not live up to his word either. He'll let these people go as long as you get me what he wants. And that is, that's a pretty good kind of villain to have. Someone that is no nonsense in that kind of a way. That makes for an effective foil to someone like Walter Matthau, who's a frumpier character that will play around and what have you, take things seriously, of course, but like it's a good counterbalance.
I like a movie where a cop is a cop and a criminal is a criminal. Like you can, there's some nuance to both, but it's just like, no, this guy is just like, there's nothing more to him. Like it's a very simple, straightforward, like, this guy has a code, he lives by the code. And like, that's all you need to know. Like once you hear like him say one or two things, like, okay, I have a read on this guy. And like the movie doesn't like mess with that in terms of like, oh, but what if I bet you aren't expecting him to do blah, blah, blah. It's just like, no, he just doesn't, right?
Nope.
He just like, he is
I
who
do
he
love
is.
that too. There's the straightforwardness of this movie is beautiful. It is. It does have a nice straightforwardness in the characters and things like that. Agreed.
And the fact that it's set in the 70s also provides limits. Obviously, they didn't know at the time they had limits because that's not the future. They don't know like cell phones or stuff like that. But there's things that you just can't get by that you could in today's time, which is partially why the remake is also not very good. Where like Robert Shaw's clearly a very smart person that's figured everything out. However, when they have to transport the money across town, it takes them all the way to the very end of the line, right before they have the money in the station for Walter Matthau to realize, we can just tell them we have it. They don't know. They're down there. Like they can't.
They're not going to see us. Yeah.
Like it's stuff like that. That's like really, that's good. That's good screenwriting. That's good. Or like, even if it's in the original story, it's just good. Like it's good work as far as understanding your environment, your setting, and like how to have these two guys like play off of each other.
It's so good.
Remake fucks that up completely.
So talk about the remake. So like, what does remake do? Is it like, if it weren't for this movie, would it still be bad, or is it bad in comparison, or is it bad because it's just bad? Does that make sense?
It's for both. No, for both reasons. It's bad because yes, it pales compared to the original, but it's bad because I think it's a bad movie.
Okay.
I think it is during a run of Tony Scott's that I really enjoy, because it's Man on Fire and Domino and Deja Vu, three films that I really,
mid-2000s
really like.
with a lot of other Denzel.
Yeah, with some other Denzel, and then and the thing is, after this, he does Unstoppable, a different train movie, which I think rules. I think that's one of his best movies.
Is that also with Denzel?
It's also with Denzel. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. He has 5 Denzel movies, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, the remake. For one thing, I think John Travolta's terrible in it. He plays. Everything's reversed as far as the attitudes. Robert Shaw's a very cool and collected person. John Travolta plays him as this revved up guy that's just got out of jail, and he swears all the time, and he has a handlebar mustache and goatee going, and he's bald, and he's very amped the whole time. And it's a lot of playing it very big, but not in a way that feels anything with any kind of depth to it. It's just he's just doing this to play a role very big. It's very hammy, and it's not enjoyable to watch him by comparison. What I was mentioning about the style at the time, because if you know Tony Scott's 2000s era, there's a lot of heavy editing choices, a lot of hand crank stuff going on, a lot of blending of slow-mo and fast movement action at the same time. It's very, very stylized, and that can work. I named the 3 movies it works very well in. This movie, it feels like he's doing it because he doesn't know how to do anything else for this, which is weird because it's a New York-based hostage movie where we had one from 30 years ago at that point, that perfectly knew how to use New York. And This one feels so more contained. It doesn't use the city in any way that feels all that good. It's a real misfortunate take on what could have been when they told me Denzel Washington's going to star in a remake of Pelham 1-2-3 with Tony Scott directing, I'm like, sign me the fuck up right now. That sounds amazing. I'm there opening day, and I was, and it sucked. It was so disappointing to watch.
Is there anything redeeming about it, or no?
Denzel's in the pocket because he's fucking Denzel Washington, the greatest actor. And he's great. He's doing they give him more of a sad backstory. He's just been found taking a bribe, and now he's been demoted down to being an MTA guy, and he has to be on the phone with John Travolta. It tries to add and it's still only 100 minutes. It's still the same length, which is impressive, I guess. It's not a 2.5 hour version of this story, but it's a Tony Scott film, so it has a great character actor cast. It has James Gandolfini's the mayor.
Yeah, I was looking that up, and I was I think Joe's gonna like this movie more because he likes Denzel, but he also likes Gandolfini. Gandolfini
likes Gandolfini, but
good.
But you look at his movies. He always gets great casts in his films. He has and so it's the stuff's there as far as the ingredient. All the ingredients are there to make this work. It's just he doesn't bring out the New Yorkness of it, which seems essential to doing this movie. And the villain, I think John Travolta is just entirely wrong for what, at least his choices he's making are entirely wrong for this movie. So it's just. It's just kind of this blah action thing, and even the choices made in how you we talked about the ending of this film, the 74 film, where it's very it takes different steps than you'd expect compared to a post Die Hard action movie where you'd have big shootouts and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yes,
this remake has several shootouts. It has a lot of the stuff that nowadays you would do in a movie like this, and it makes it more plain by comparison to the older days when you would take different sort of steps that are smarter choices, or at least unconventional choices. This one doesn't subvert anything. It just gives you exactly the dollar store approach to what this story could be. And it sucks for that reason.
Joe, I will tell you that frequent guest on the show, Garrett Smith, says, I like this more than I expected to. Way more than I expected to. Almost every choice that initially rubbed me the wrong way, I came around by the end. So...
This movie or the remake?
The remake.
Oh, interesting.
Garrett, almost every guest we've had on this show who's on Letterboxd loves the movie we just watched of this. But Garrett
makes sense. Yeah.
He gave the original only 3 stars, or not the original, the remake 3 stars. He gave the original 5 stars. But for Garrett to say it's better than I thought it was going to be. I do think for both better and worse, Joe will like the remake more than this one.
I don't know. I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm not pressing, but I would give it a shot. Rachel's intrigued by it. Like I said, when I told her I was watching this, she was like, "Don't care. I'll watch we can watch the remake if we want." Because I think Aaron, and you seem more disappointed that the movie didn't come together the way you wanted it. Like, I get you're saying you have.
It's not a matter of the way I wanted it. It's a matter of if you're going to
Yes.
if you want to mess around with what the movie is, that's fine with me. I just want that to feel like identifiable in some way as
No, you
something
sound
that's not so
disappointed. Like it has all the pieces that you want.
Yeah,
in
okay,
this
yes.
thing,
I was
and
disappointed as far as it had the material to be a better movie, yes.
Yeah, like it's a recipe that like everything sounded good in it, and you taste it, and you're like, oh no, that's not what I wanted, right? So like, I don't know. I'm gonna have to give it a shot and figure it out. But because the cast sounds great, like you're describing it, I'm sold with you. I'm with Aaron. I'm like, this sounds fucking awesome. Like this should be a great movie.
I mean, it's a lot you could say, like, I don't know, like Black Mass is a gangster movie of Johnny Depp and Benedict Cumberbatch and all these people, and it's like, well, yeah, that's not The Godfather. I mean, there's not.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not hard for me to like discern. Like, yeah, sure, you can have stuff, but it doesn't mean it's going to be automatically good or match up to other classics that know how to do this well. I mean, it's disheartening to hear the idea of someone being like, I don't want to watch this because what, it's from the 70s. Like, is that the sole reason? Like, it's not now.
Oh no, yeah.
Also, the thing, like, I think I have found in my own whatever, and I think also we have found on these podcasts is that, like, when a movie has a star-studded cast and you've never heard of it, there's a reason you've never heard of it. Because just like,
amen.
Oh yeah, it's not very good. Like, they're just like, oh my god, like 6 of my favorite comedians are in this movie together. How have I never heard of it? It's like, oh, because it sucks. Like, it's not funny and it's not good. It's like, oh my god, Denzel was in the movie with Travolta and James Gandolfini, and like it's a remake of a
classic,
it's not good. But yeah,
you'd be surprised. I mean, nowadays that's more obvious because nowadays things are so much more accessible and there's marketing or what have you. So somehow there's something slipped under your radar that involved a lot of big talent and you didn't realize it. Yeah, that's probably the case because social media would have been all over that. Back in the day, in 70s, 80s, earlier 60s, what have you, there's plenty of movies that I'm still discovering that like have certain people I really enjoy and I either wasn't aware of or just like had the most marginal of understanding about. But it turns out like, oh, this is like a secret classic. Like, and it was actually
I think it's definitely more
favorite or what have you.
It's the more modern thing, like in like especially in the streaming era where there's just more movies in general where it's like, oh no, there's a reason I've never heard of this movie. Like if I haven't heard of a movie from like the 60s or 70s, like I just figure like no one's ever brought it up to me.
It's
before.
me.
Like,
Yeah.
But like,
that's where like I roll my eyes at the various like Screen Rant articles that say like, you'll never guess what Ryan Gosling hits big on Netflix right now, and it's like, well, yeah, because nobody fucking saw it in theaters and they didn't want to, but now it's easy to stream and they're watching it. Doesn't mean they're liking it, it just means it's passing time for them on Netflix.
And also, you know what? I will guess because I've seen every goddamn Ryan Gosling movie.
Very true.
Joe, do you have any notes, any other thoughts about the taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3? Also, the remake changes the numbers spelled out to just the numbers. It's just like, come on, guy.
Wait, what? It changes it to 1, 2, 3, like
the number 1, number 2, number 3 instead of
but that also there's reasons for
it.
that. There's like reasons for that with like SEO and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking too. Yeah, makes sense.
But Joe, other thoughts, other notes?
No, I think I cut all mine in. I think we're doing pretty good.
Aaron, any other thoughts?
I mean, you can talk about like the things that like date this movie to. I mean, obviously it's a 70s film, but like there is like casual racism taking place, let alone misogyny.
Always,
and stuff, like,
yeah.
Where it's like it's expected to a degree, but and even then, like it goes two ways because on the one hand, like Hector Elizondo is an irredeemable character, so it's like okay, he wants to like pick on the black guy, whatever. He gets his comeuppance regardless. But yeah, you do have like the Walter Matthau scene with the like Asian businessmen, which seems like a common trope in a lot of like 70s movies, especially when it comes to comedies, where it's like, what default thing can we use to like point out differences or whatnot? It's like, well, we could have a team of Asian businessmen walk through here and make fun of that. And it's like, all right, like that's the kind of stuff you got to like settle with. Even then, like they still make Walter Matthau look like the idiot later on with that whole scenario. So it's like, it's not stuff that like brings it down for me. In the same way that like other movies, there are things that are like not just change my perspective, but like just make it feel like less of a reason to like watch it more frequently. This movie doesn't really have that. It's just more stuff that I put in my notes as far as there is a lot of like casual racism going on in this film.
Hey man, that's just the 70s. That's the 70s in New York.
No, whenever we watch these 70s movies, we're always like, yeah, there's a lot of casual racism, but then we're like, yeah, but like it doesn't feel as bad as like when we catch one from like the early 2000s and we're like, god damn, still like Jesus, like can we stop?
I will just emphasize again, there's just the New York of it all. Like, it's seeing faces that just look like real people is like, it's so, like, when I'm watching so many movies right now, just because it's award season, I'm seeing all these movies, and it's refreshing when you see like a cast of people that look like people and not movie stars playing roles.
Yeah.
That's just a real refreshing kind of thing to see, like, happens, and like, how there's like something, I don't know, there's something like a different kind of texture to it that just feels refreshing to watch.
I have a question for you, Aaron. I was thinking about this when I was watching the movie, and when you said like you've never been to New York, it reminded me of it. Were you always a California guy? Did you start there? Have you like been there the whole time?
I am born and raised in Southern California. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, cool.
I've been so many places around the world, but I've never gone to New York. I've been to Connecticut,
totally
but I haven't been to New York.
That's crazy.
And I certainly want to. I look forward to when I finally get there. And I like to do things big. I like to go take the tours and see all the stuff because I find the cities like that fascinating. It'd be more than a day to be like, let me see all of New York right now. But
for some reason, I had a feeling you were going to come in and be like, I love this movie because it reminds me of New York, and like, that's where I started, and then like I wound up in California. It's like you could have told me either one of these, and I would have been like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, that's why I wear my Big Apple T-shirt all the time, just to represent.
Yeah, I heart New York, of course.
I heart New York. There's a little rattle in one corner, a little pizza slice on the other.
You got it down. You nailed it. That's New York to a T.
Yeah, you're always saying I'm walking here, right? That's just a constant refrain. Even when you're not even walking, you're just standing still.
For sure,
pretty much. Yeah, you have to be angry. Angry walking is a real thing.
All right, let's watch the trailer for this, because I think Aaron, you mentioned it earlier in terms of like.
I'm curious about it. I'm very, very curious. Yes.
I will also say 1974 as a year. Godfather 2, California Split, Black Christmas, Chinatown, Taking Pelham 1, 2, 3, like Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, Phantom of the Paradise, Phase 4, Parallax View, The Gambler. Like that's The Conversation, Phantom of Liberty, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Crazy.
Oh, yeah.
The original
there's no 70s year where you'd be like, oh, that was a stinker. Like the 70s has so many hits constantly throughout. It's ridiculous.
So we're going to watch a trailer, The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, official trailer number 1, Walter Matthau movie, 1974 HD, posted by Rotten Tomatoes, classic trailers, 11 years ago. Let me know when you're both ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready when you are, bud.
All right. 3, 2, 1, play.
1:23 p.m. A crowded subway train starts its run.
It's pitch black at 1:23.
Well,
45
underground.
Just kidding.
Underground.
Daylight savings.
Seize control of the train. Open the door or I'll blow your head off. Taking 17 people as hostages.
See, it's very focused on the seriousness, which makes sense for an opening of a trailer, at least.
There's like a level of like almost like British. I mean, I know it's the accent, but like it's just like he's like, I'm classing up a little bit. I'm a British guy, right? Like it's just like I'm gonna treat you right. I'm hijacking you, but like I'm treating you right.
He also enunciates.
Yes,
so that's key, right?
Did it sound like it? It honestly didn't sound like a British accent to me. And he keeps referencing it. I was like, it doesn't sound British, but I guess
it's not like North Atlantic either, like Cary Grant. It's British, but yes, it's not like obviously it's not Cockney. Obviously,
exactly. Yeah,
it's not Michael Caine British.
Nothing will happen as long as you obey my orders.
Yeah, the thing is, it just doesn't emphasize the fact that this movie is very fun. Like there's a lot of comedy in it.
This seems very serious. Yeah.
To police headquarters. I've got about 50 men inside the tunnel, all wearing vests.
Like even like seeing the mayor just then. The mayor is a comedic character in this movie. He is a cut up. And it's just like,
the world's busiest subway system.
Look at that beautiful control room, Joey.
all those beiges.
Don't get me started.
We agree to pay the ransom. Repeat.
It's like every Walter Matthau line is just like plot. Like it's not
yes,
it's not
you're
the
right.
tone that he has for this movie.
You'll be surprised what's physically possible.
Pelham 1, 2, 3's in motion.
You did get some of the score though, so that's fun.
How long does it take to get all that money together anyway?
The cars are really cool in this movie, just because they're 70s cars.
We'll never make it. The passengers at that.
I like that, like, when they're transporting the money, the cop car flips, and the two cops are, like, upside down there with the bag of money. They just, like, take the bag of money out, they leave the cops, and they're just like, we gotta keep going, sorry, guys.
Yeah.
They just, like, load on the motorcycle and just drive off.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
By the way, if you think Tony Scott wants to make a meal out of cop cars flipping in his movies, you're definitely right. He does.
Oh, I'm sure he does. All right, so the Letterboxd game, for reference sake, Mad Max Fury Road, one of the most popular films on Letterboxd, 1.6 million times logged. The Taking of Pelham 123, 1974, directed by Joseph Sargent, starring Walter Matthau, Robert Shaw, and Martin Balsam, has been seen by how many people? Joe, how many people do you think have seen this movie?
I don't know. You guys all seem to love this, love this, love this, love this. You said everybody that we've had as a guest has rated it. I think this would be a Letterboxd darling. I'm going to start at 137,000.
Okay, Aaron?
I think Joe's right. I think this is kind of like a Letterboxd audience kind of favorite. So I'll go one higher. I'll do a clean 150.
You are both too high. Got to go lower.
Okay.
I thought that this was going to be like a gem, like, you know, you have to factor in the year and stuff, but how about give me 78,000?
Aaron?
85.
Still too high. One more guess. What's your real first guess?
A 52 final guess. 52,000.
60.
53,911. Almost 54. It rounds up on Letterboxd, rounds up to 54,000 people have logged this movie. Average rating of a 4. Highest rating of 4, then a 4.5, then a 3.5, then a 5. How many out of those 54,000 people have this in their top 4 favorite films of all time?
Oh, I bet it's a big no. Give me 16.
In their top 4?
Yeah.
Yes.
21.
You are both way too low.
God. So this is way disproportionate. Okay.
Well, you know, you keep in mind, like, the 10th of 1% should be 54. Like, that should be the threshold.
Yeah. 32. It's an old movie, though. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Like, I can't
32.
imagine it sits
I also
there.
said you're way too low.
Oh, really? Like, okay, so give me 132.
200.
You're both still too low.
Well, this makes
Damn
me
it.
feel better.
325. Last guess.
450.
279. 279 people have this in the top 4.
That's a lot. That's a good amount.
I follow and I'm followed by this guy, Giuseppe Z. So just like our own Giuseppe here.
Ah.
Did not review it, but Taking Pelham 123 is in Giuseppe's top 4 favorite films of all time. The other 3, 2 are 1980s classics, one of which we have covered on this podcast, one of which we could cover on this podcast. The other one is a movie that came out about 10 years ago that if Joe has heard of this movie, I would be stunned.
10 years ago?
It came out in 2011, Aaron.
Okay.
I'm going to play a game with Aaron first because there's no way you've even
That's
heard
fine.
of this movie.
Do it, please.
Came out 10 years ago. There's a Radiohead song off A Moon-Shaped Pool that basically has the same title as this movie. It is a period piece starring a handful of, like, in terms of, like, oh my God, I can't believe they got all these people in the movie. I don't love this movie, but a lot of people really like this movie. Aaron, did you rate this movie? You gave this movie 4 stars. It's set in the bleak days of the Cold War from 2011. Stacked cast, 2011, a movie you really liked. Has like 5 or 6 big actors. Actors.
It's not Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, is it?
Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy from 2011.
Ah.
Gary
Tell me
Oldman, Colin Firth, Tom Hardy, Mark Strong, Benedict Cumberbatch.
I think
Radiohead
I watched it when it was like an Oscar nom, but I don't
Surprised it's only 4 stars for me.
Radiohead gave it a call, has a song called Tinker Tailor Soldier Sailor Rich Man Poor Man.
Ah, okay. Joey's a big Radiohead guy.
Beggar.
So.
Man.
Yeah.
Thief. Spotify was scrolling the title very, very slowly.
Okay.
Thief. Okay. So that's Giuseppe's 3rd favorite movie of all time. Top 2, one of which we have covered on this podcast, one of which we could cover on this podcast, both from the 80s, both unequivocal 5-star movies, both genre pictures.
Okay.
One of which we've covered, one of which we could cover. The one we could cover, we have
we were both
brought up
guessing.
before.
Yeah. We brought up before today?
No.
on the episode?
Like in a recent Letterboxd game, we've talked. I gave the same clue.
Is it like Blues Brothers and
No, we
Back
covered
to the
Blues
Future?
Brothers. More genre-y than that.
I don't know. Give me some more, Joey. Come on.
Both
come
from
on.
the 80s, both genre, which means like pulpy.
The Thing.
The Thing, number 1.
Oh, fuck. Good job, bud.
It's going to be
Excellent.
the same clue every single time. An unequivocal classic we could cover because Kurt Russell's in it, and we've
Yes,
not
that's
yet covered
true.
it.
That's true.
Another movie from the 80s, maybe pound for pound, the bloodiest movie we have covered on this podcast.
The bloodiest 80s movie we covered. I don't know.
Like,
Is it a,
over the
is
top.
it a horror movie?
No,
Okay. Well, that narrows
It's not
things down.
Jaws.
it's not. It's also the
80s.
70s.
I know, but I just laughed
bloodiest-
at Jaws.
Does it have like a big 80s action star? Does it have like a Schwarzenegger or a Stallone in it?
Nope.
No, but it's still very bloody.
I would say this
Reanimator?
guy is... Say again?
No, we didn't
Reanimator?
cover
Nope.
Reanimator.
This guy is probably best known for this role, the title role. We covered it in our classic car movies because
RoboCop?
there is a
Oh,
RoboCop.
RoboCop. Of course.
Gotcha. There we go. Cool.
The Thing, RoboCop, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, and The Taking of Pelham. 1, 2, 3. If I'm on a desert island with those 4 movies, pretty good, pretty solid.
Good for. Good for.
Yeah, not too bad. I like that.
Aaron, have we talked about what your top 4 is? Let me take a look at yours really quick.
I feel like maybe we did last time. I don't remember.
Well, we have the aforementioned Jaws.
Yes. We talked
got-
about it maybe when I was on Aaron's episode, like on Out Now with Aaron and Abe or something. Maybe.
I
something.
don't generally talk about my top 4, so I don't think I've had this conversation.
Aaron, do you know your top
weird.
4 without looking?
Yeah, it's Jaws, Jackie Brown, City of God, and I think Empire is on there
Yep.
right now.
Not in that order, but those are the 4, yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna change it next year because I feel like that's fun to do, but I haven't done that before.
Change
I
it
mean,
every year?
Yeah, or I don't know. I was just thinking about tinkering with that, with maybe like every 6 months or something, just to like mix it up. Because why not? I have a whole
Tinkering,
list of my
tailoring,
favorite movies of
soldiering,
all time.
spying. No, I love it. I also love that, Aaron and I both are patrons. We support Letterboxd. We pay for the privilege of using the free service. But that lets us use the custom covers and the custom posters. And Aaron, you take advantage in a way that, not more
I love
people
it.
should.
Love
It's
it.
the
If
best.
I'm gonna pay for Letterboxd, I might as well use the features,
Yeah,
and that's the best one. Like, yeah, I'm
Seriously.
gonna change every single poster I can.
Mm-hmm.
I change posters on movies I haven't seen yet.
Do you?
Just
So
to get it
here's
right.
a question for you. I want to know if you see a movie, like I saw Priscilla last night, and I don't love any of the posters. Like I think I like the default poster more, but like, will you change just to change it, or if you like the default poster more?
I never like the default poster because I don't like removing text. That it doesn't make it feel like a poster to me anymore. I like choosing the poster that at the very least have text on them, so it has like the credits on the bottom, or the stuff on the top, or whatever, the taglines or whatever.
Gotcha.
The default posters tend to be strip away, Photoshop every single thing out, so it's just like the main image, which is fine for whoever. But like I if I'm looking at a movie poster, I want to look at a movie poster, not just a piece of art. So
Gotcha.
Makes
Okay,
sense.
fair enough.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
Well, Aaron, thank you so much for joining us to talk about the taking
Thank you,
of
brother.
Pelham 1, 2, 3. What do you have going on? What would you like to plug? Out now, Aaron and Abe. What are you doing? What's going on over there?
Yeah, the podcast is out now with Aaron and Abe, where you can find it anywhere you can find podcasts. My co-host Abe and I talk about weekly movie releases, which is super fun. We also, because we're in the midst of award season, we're going to have a lot of bonus episodes coming up. You mentioned The Killer. We have a Killer episode coming up pretty shortly.
Cool.
We just got through October. We had a mountain of horror themed episodes, which was so much fun to do. It's a very ambitious schedule that we somehow got through, but it was a lot of fun. And we have commentary tracks every month as well. And you guys have also been on the show on various occasions as well, and it's always been great. But yeah, it's a really fun time talking about movies.
Sweet.
Yeah, and that I write for We Live Entertainment for my movie reviews, and I'm on Twitter at Aaron's PS4.
Still have not upgraded to PS5 yet, though.
I have it.
He has a PS5, but he
I know
hasn't
you have
upgraded
it, but
to
you
the
still haven't
name.
changed your handle. You have not slid over into those DMs.
I have the handles so I could use them if I wanted to. But I like the sound of Aaron's PS4, so I'm just sticking with it.
I do too. It has good mouthfeel. I agree.
Yeah.
Joe, our next episode next week is... Okay, I need to preface this by saying in real life, this is not true. As we're recording, it's not true. But as this comes out, next week is Thanksgiving. So
Okay.
our Planes, Trains, but No Automobiles lap is taking a real swerve to cover Planes, Trains, and Automobiles next week. Because
I'm very excited.
It's a Thanksgiving movie, and we're covering it for Thanksgiving week. So that'll be out on Tuesday, the 21st. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Of course, our patrons will get it early because they get everything early. They're going to get bonus episodes this month. But shout out to them. Shout out to Cassie Wilson, Nick Burris, Alex Ellen, and Justin Kleiman, and Brian Rodriguez of High School Slumber Party. Wes Hampton, Jerry Robinson, Dan the Duke, Hayden Renato DiDonato, Michael McGann, Lane Middleton, Lindsay Lewandowski, Nate Milton of the Kings of Sport. We're going to get Nate back on the podcast. We haven't had Nate on in a while. Jason Rainey, Tom Price, Mike Gallagher, Josh Buckley of Whole Lot of Wolves.
Yep.
Michael Moser, Christian Larson, Tara Newone, Aaron Willows, and Natalie Absolute, Randy Carter, and Jessica Collins, a.k.a. Montez. Thank you all for supporting us at the $5 a month level or above. Bonus episodes coming your way very soon. Early access to every episode, undying love and affection, swag and merchandise, all at toofast2forever.com. And for all things Too Fast 2 Forever, go to cageclub.me, facebook.com/toofast2forever, or at toofast2forever on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, anywhere else, Threads. Yes, Threads. Email us, family@cageclub.me. Check out our Patreon page at toofast2forever.com and our store at cageclub.me/shop. And come back next week for Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe, too.
And that was Aaron Neuwirth of Out Now with Aaron and Abe, and we will tell you all about it
when we see you again.